Vice President Harris,
here we go.
And your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to
I wonder if the captions will keep up. Keep the boss music up.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I
Whoa!
the aspirations and dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing.
Crap foam! Finish the first part of your motorcycle class? Ooh. To ride them? Getting a Class M license?
We know that young families need support to raise their children.
Motorcycles are really fun, but they're dangerous. Oh my gosh. Hopefully the class is impressing that on you as hard as they can. Nice. You'll feel the coolest you'll ever feel on a motorcycle.
Buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
That's right, we're doing it.
My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Oh, his tariffs?
Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year.
I'm a little curious
because of his policy
about all the mic stuff. Are they muting the mic of the other person?
Backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for.
Or are they going to try to get Trump shouting a slur on live TV or something?
I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries.
Sounds like he's trying to talk deeper than usual.
75 years pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do.
Why isn't the fucking... I hate it when the overlay doesn't go away.
They've left the tariffs on.
There it is.
When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries.
Country buster?
We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before.
There was no getting out of COVID without something, you know?
We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for everyone.
Trump's eyes go red.
We have
Blake Adkins, thank you very much for the super chat. Blake writes, thank you for all the smiles from Funhouse to Rooster Teeth. You've helped me through a lot. Keep kicking ass, gamer.
Right now by African Americans and Hispanics. And also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon.
You don't like the unions?
You see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States.
Thank you very much.
Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora.
Oh, you meant from Funhouse to your solo streaming? Hey, that's fine.
They're taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people.
Them, the people.
Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous.
A dog whistle's getting awful loud, eh? Don't worry about it, Blake. You have nothing to apologize for, especially when you're, telling me some of the nicest stuff. Thank you. I'm glad that my idiocy could bring happiness to anybody.
During this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump.
At least Kamala can get through sentences. Man, that first debate was harsh. I could feel my stomach sinking. I was like, mother.
Done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell
Crab, you have nothing good to say about either of these candidates, so I'm a lurk.
From the same old tired.
Yeah. The nature of compromise, isn't it?
Grievances and name.
Nobody gets what they want.
What you're going to hear tonight.
But hopefully,
and dangerous plan called Project 2025.
All
that
right.
The former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly.
Hopefully we don't get
that the American people
civil
want
unrest.
a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us.
Here's the
And I
thing, though.
encourage you to be a president for all Americans.
I got to use the restroom.
Trump will give you a minute here to
Had to for a minute, so I'm gonna
As you know, and as
get
you
up and do that. Gonna leave the video game music on.
Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially.
Where's the tax returns, man?
Create a great economy.
Mr. Open Book?
We had the
This
greatest
fucking guy. This fucking guy.
pandemic.
All right, I gotta piss.
The pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So, Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs, you responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there.
Oops, I'm back. Thank you, Candles.
Under their administration. We are going to take in billions.
Name one private company ever that was just like, oh, we have to pay more money? Oh, well,
No inflation.
I guess we'll just leave all our prices the same.
In the history of our country,
Dude.
because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our
I mean, he is speaking directly to the people that are suffering the most, though.
They've destroyed the economy, and all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president
It's
said.
probably the smartest thing he has to needle.
A number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the
He's also trying to ruin the same people's lives. That's true, but they don't follow that. They're too busy being poor.
He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military. Basically sold us out.
Nice.
When a policy about China should be in making sure the United
These
States
days,
of America
with this
wins
stuff,
competition for the 21st
I try to like think about what shots are going to land
details of what that requires.
with people who don't follow any of this, which is kind of me. I mean, I'm not up to date on everything, but
Investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing. Focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point. When
Tweet,
we know
not
that
ex
Xi
post.
was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her,
bad
she has no
chip-killing
problem.
policies.
Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's
Hey,
going to
Jipu.
my philosophy now.
How you doing?
I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy, but if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
Free hat.
It will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well.
Why
When
Marxism?
you look at what she's done to
Is that something they can really stick on people? I don't.
millions
People
and
know what that
millions of
is.
people that are pouring into our country
They just know it's
monthly,
bad, I guess. It
whereas
sounds
I believe
foreign.
21 million people, not the 15.
Communist is usually what you say.
It's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these
Oh, hi,
people
Marx.
coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has,
It is?
destroyed
Bad
our
immigration.
country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
The issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v.
They hate it.
Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you
Yeah,
said
socialism is bad. We don't like
your
that.
6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical.
Just
in that.
football punting a
And her
baby.
Vice President.
She signed it away.
Which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country.
She traded her baby away for 2 joints.
But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine.
Now I'm going to hit this baby with the RKO. Oh, boom!
After birth, it's an execution.
Ding, 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 ding.
Abortion, because the baby is born is okay, and that's not okay with me. Hence the vote.
Such a
But I
tough
did
guy.
Something for 52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states, and through the
Who's they?
genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, We were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for
Them.
rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it.
Those don't exist,
now
though.
States are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back.
He keeps saying that.
People could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio?
He keeps saying that there was a consensus that it should have been a states' right issue, but I don't think anyone was ever saying that. Like, ever.
But each individual state is
There's actually a clear precedent in the United States that civil rights have to be at the federal level. They have to.
And the Supreme Court had great courage.
I know he's lying, but still. Like, usually his lies are based in something that can be perverted or warped, but...
In this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well,
Hey, just, by the way, that's bullshit.
lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about
burped.
This is what people wanted?
I saw the
Pregnant women
I saw the
want to
flare.
carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest.
He's poker facing pretty well, though.
To carry a pregnancy to term, they don't want that.
I remember him being even more... Oh,
When
never mind.
Congress passes a bill,
We'll see how his composure holds
put
up.
back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade.
But he was like, he was more
President of the
comically
United States, I will proudly
overacting
sign it into law.
in his,
But understand, if Donald
debate
Trump
with
were to
Hillary.
be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would.
He was always like
your pregnancy,
monstering and looming and pulling
I think
faces
the
and
American
stuff.
People believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Yeah, ideally his composure wears down, or he decides to go off
It's
script.
a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And
No
I
one
did
did.
something that
No one was torn
nobody
apart
thought
about
was
that.
possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
But they did that, though.
I think
That's something they did.
loss, if you call
Maybe it was a
because
catastrophe for the lending companies, but who gives a fuck about
We'll
them?
do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got.
Yeah, it's like, how does that work though? Is it random?
Whole idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost. to
They kind of did it, yeah.
millions of people that had to
Sort
pay
of.
off their
I'm not quite
student
sure the
loans. They didn't
specifics,
get it
but
for free.
some money
I'm
got.
saying, it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get.
Oh, that's right. It got blocked by the courts. Awesome.
And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President,
You don't, though. It was the Supreme Court, which we don't elect.
Any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion ban.
How else are single moms going to afford their gay government weed?
And dream of having
Babies for weed.
are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state.
This is the song that plays in the abortion clinic when you trade in your baby for a stack of joints.
Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body.
The full 10 and 20K didn't go into effect, but small relief did come out.
Issue has been on the ballot in
Got a small bit of relief at the start of the year. That's good news.
America have voted for freedom.
Vice President.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you
That's
answer the
problem.
question? Would you
Because
veto?
Oh.
Answer the question.
you
Would you
could,
veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at
Probably.
the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's
Put the baby aside,
Democrats, voters across the board.
and then we decide how many joints the baby is worth.
Terrorism. You were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden...
Abortion after birth, that's just killing a baby. You're right. And that's why there's a moral obligation to make sure it never happens.
To you tonight is why did these
It's happening all the time. Babies just
months before the election,
rolling off countertops.
and would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking
Ooh.
of guns, drugs.
Merkingly, thanks for gifting 5 subs. Who caught him here? Falafel Supreme, Mac Hand 1, Spasmatic,
Members of the United
Lick, Lich, Legacy, and Shaft of Justice.
bill, which I supported.
Been a while since I've seen Shaft of
That
Justice.
bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened?
Yeah.
Bill?
Oh,
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress.
we need to hear
And you know why?
each of these candidates and what their favorite Concord character is.
Instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time.
And does it change when you're on
the
fentanyl?
people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration.
Okay, we're getting some faces now.
Subject that is being raised.
He's starting to like
And I'm going to actually
move around a little more.
And I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, good. Gonna make fun of him now. Hopefully this
And what you will also notice is that people
maybe this leads to some erratic behavior.
exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe
burped again.
you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to
Man,
you.
imagine smelling a Donald Trump burp.
President Trump, on that point, I want
Whatever his 80-year-old guts do to like
So why did you try to kill that bill and successfully so that would have put
to a
thousands
room temperature McDonald's cheeseburger,
First, let me respond as to the rallies.
Just
She said people started
gurgling, swamped with Diet Coke.
no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
Bussin'?
And then showing them in a different light. So
Trump really is the champion of the Gen
biggest
Zs.
rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. What's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country.
Millions?
And look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States.
Welcome,
A lot of
Jake
towns
Rides
don't wanna
again.
talk. Not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far
Oh
as
man,
rallies are concerned, as
they're
far
going with that, huh?
the reason
Man, it is the 80s again, huh?
I say they want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase: "Make America great again."
Mm.
She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success.
When the dog whistle just becomes
Will end
just
up
becomes
being
like a horn.
Venezuela on steroids.
They're eating the dogs.
I want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and
Maybe they are, man.
reached out to the city manager there.
Shit.
Told us there have been no credible reports of
Oh.
claims of pets being
No one's eating pets in Springfield, you idiot.
individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this.
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
The people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
What the fuck, dude?
City manager says there's no evidence of that. So I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
They eat the dogs. The TV told me. Oh, she's laughing at him. Hell yeah.
This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff,
We're starting to get his faces.
has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is
No name, it was you?
fit.
They grabbed your dog?
Former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah, thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people.
I feel like my camera's in the way. Let me scoot it down.
Oh! Handled situations anybody has ever seen. So
it's MCMK. Thanks for the sub.
I fire him.
Is it bad that I'm laughing from Germany? I mean, yeah, it's probably bad.
So
but...
he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they.
Whoops.
They have done such a
okay.
poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation.
Okay, there we go.
They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back.
He lost me somewhere in there.
A proposal that the vice president.
They have bad people because they don't fire anybody?
You call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals.
God, he's really biting off the immigrant thing, huh?
People to come in, drug dealers to come into our country, and they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one
I'm laughing too, MCMK.
For them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite the fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
Wow, they are really going after that.
Overall, violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond.
They're lying.
This is so rich.
Nuh-uh.
Coming
They're stupid.
who has been prosecuted
Dude.
for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Yeah, it's rpgamers.net radio.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized.
Well, Clinton got impeached.
Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country.
But he appointed over half of the Supreme Court, though.
Fake cases.
And that's what's driving all of it. Well, most of it.
Weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people to stop him.
Thank you.
Oops.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
Oh, is he yelling?
This is the one that weaponized.
I thought they weren't supposed to do that.
She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of...
Oh, trotting that one out?
They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last...
Yeah, his ear's looking real nice.
You wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know.
Thank you for the sub, Bleakersburg.
Have not changed. So then why
National
have your
Gaming.
policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is...
We do love fracking, don't we, swing states?
Invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in production in
Jake Rides Again says I'm going to need drugs for this. I'm kind of feeling it too.
that we cannot over-rely on.
I'm in the middle of uploading Inside Games. Kind of slipped my mind, to be honest. Also, check out Factor. Hashtag sponsored.
Raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved.
Appreciate the support of the stream, Factor.
Teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not
Oh, yeah.
everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times. The value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not putting people down. And name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands that strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars. Many, many billions.
Many billions.
People see it.
Billions, billions, billions.
So,
They're so surprised at my billions.
fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. defund the police. She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up.
Do you like to
Very
defund the
wrongly,
police?
very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave at least 12...
Pepper, thanks for the sub.
14 or 15 different policies. Like,
It is indeed a time to be alive.
in Minnesota, she went out... Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please.
Wow, really?
Does that sound familiar?
What?
She went out...
Oh, he's being
Minnesota.
he's being spicy, huh?
That killed people. That
Remember when he was yelling over his muted mic before?
money to get them out of
Oh, we gotta boot up Photoshop real quick.
Nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do
They're
this,
taking the aliens and making them trans.
and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to
Sorry.
It's so important, in my opinion.
We're gonna take your tax dollars and change the gender of every illegal alien in our prison.
When they took over,
Maybe that's why he wants to round them all up.
started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up
Uh,
the roof.
Stop
They
it.
immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take
You ever see solar?
400, 500 acres of...
The acres is solar.
These are not good things for you.
The there's the trans aliens are eating your dog.
Thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president.
And somehow it's a close election.
Mr. President, on January 6th, you
God bless America.
marched to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office.
Oh.
You sent out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out
We're looking at J6, huh?
telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever...
There's footage of this happening, man.
Disgrace. But
Really, bro?
this group of people that have been treated so bad...
He just called the cops disgraceful.
the people that are pouring into our country and killing people, that she allowed to pour it in. She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar.
I don't know. Can you get away with that?
Because she's
Yes.
embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said it.
Trump can do whatever he wants, I
Oh,
guess.
I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet.
Yeah, the party of law and order, specifically when it suits their...
What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these
That's
people
fine.
from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David. All over the world.
Baron Kurda, thank you for the sub.
The world because of it.
But let me just
one
ask
of
you-
those, David, one of those people. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted, or in Seattle. They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You
you.
might.
They are. They have been.
You were watching
It's been happening.
television.
People have gotten prosecuted for that shit. I just read an article about how all the student protests, like there's still proceedings falling out from that.
I had nothing.
People's diplomas are being held up and shit.
A speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally, or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not
Yeah, you forgot.
Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
Harm.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches.
Yeah, that sucked.
Spewing anti-Semitic hate.
That sucks.
And what did the president...
Bad look for the United States.
say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for
Man, this appealing to people's dignity and desire to return to normalcy
stand for our democracy.
is, it works on me. I'm not sure if it's going to work on everybody. I hope it does.
And to end
Those are my
approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said...
Yeah, it's for people who are undecided. Moderates for sure. That's the thing. I hope moderates care about that. I don't know if they do. Or undecided. It's people that are like too busy living paycheck to paycheck, week to week, and don't follow the drama and the political intrigue of it.
It was a different...
Why do they keep giving him more mic?
Related to energy because they have
I guess that's the world though.
Also,
winners don't play by the rules.
That story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go
Fox News hosts,
sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to...
Hello, Bruce.
It's so bad. It's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border
So we like the Border Patrol.
Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to...
They killed...
This next issue to both because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it.
Oh, this is interesting. Curious to see how he's going to ramble his way out of this.
Acknowledging that you lost in 2020.
No, I don't acknowledge it at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker.
It was a prank, bro. Idiot.
All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislature
for approval.
I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told
Welcome to Inside Games.
Whoa. Hey, Bruce. Sorry about that.
You can't be beaten.
New Inside Games is up, by the way.
People should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even...
Oh yeah, they're trying to they're trying to purge people from voter rolls and stuff.
And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said
no
we didn't have standing.
That's
the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the
Sounds like it matters.
Right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now...
I'll show you everything. My coins, my stamps.
And they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you.
Oh, Mountain Buck.
You heard the president there.
Thanks for the sub.
He didn't say that he lost.
Oh, yeah, he could show you his NFT collection.
He did not lose the election. That was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Welcome to Inside.
Donald Trump was
Keeps auto-playing.
1 million people.
Nice.
So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very...
It's a really good way to put it.
But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States...
In terms of, I do like the fact that she's trying to rattle him.
...attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting.
This guy said, I'm great.
North Korea was afraid of him. Look at
yeah,
what's going on
he's citing the Hungarian dictator.
Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one.
Strong man, tough guy.
The XL pipeline.
Yeah, that Mass Effect music was awesome.
But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into
this is calming. I like this. I'm gonna get some whiskey.
Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about it.
Does it not occur to him why another dictator would want him as a leader?
You know what? I'll give you a little
if he's so tough,
he can't stand her.
Wouldn't they not want it? They'd want to support a weaker candidate, right?
And when she ran, she was the first one to...
Is that 240 chess? Maybe it is.
And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters.
Okay.
Because it is also true.
I have some Macallan's Scotch whiskey, rare cask.
Mothers.
Thank God for this.
What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately.
Got me some whiskey stones.
And is we need a ceasefire deal, and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock also.
Anyway,
understanding
cheers.
that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to
Mustache party.
and anything
Thank you for the
that
sub.
Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing
I mean,
of innocent civilians?
she's basically saying
If I
like,
were president, it would have never started.
Ugh.
If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people.
no, you would have helped him annex
Far
Ukraine.
worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech.
How's it going,
She
Steph?
refused to be
We got the
there.
debates.
She had a sorority party of
I like
hers.
when he
She
said
wanted to go to the
that
sorority
Russia
party.
was scared of him,
She hates
and I was
Israel.
like, really? Really? Although I did really appreciate that she just called out the fact that he can't actually tell the difference between truth, like he can't accept that. I was all, good, 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 good.
The Arab population, because the
God, I don't know. Listening to him talk most of the time, I just want to punch him in the throat. Just,
Israel will be gone. It would have never happened.
Oh, my
Iran
God.
was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had
All right,
no
test.
God.
Okay, I'm in here.
Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different
There we go.
spheres of.
he moved the whole
Spears.
desk. Good thing that thing's on wheels,
The
right?
spheres.
They had no money.
We had
It was a
axes
big
before, and
story.
now we
You
have
know it. You covered it
spheres.
very well, actually. They had no
Trump
money
wants you to
for
beware the terror
They
sphere.
were broke. Now they're
Yeah, I
a
also
rich nation.
couldn't believe what he tried, that he wouldn't admit anything about January 6th.
Yeah.
They made me say a speech.
He said that the cop that shot Ashley Babbitt was disgraceful.
Yeah, which is like, he was fucking doing his job, protecting the Capitol from a bunch of fucking weirdos.
President-elect. I'll get it done before even becoming
Yeah, that was
president.
an eyebrow
Vice
raiser
President
for me.
Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely
He also keeps bringing up Biden. You really can tell that he's just
Yeah.
supported Israel.
he's got a real boner for him.
He knows that he's
Well,
trying to
he might
again
feel like he can
divide
stick
and distract from the
that, like-
reality.
Oh, and then he tried to say that apparently Biden hates her.
Donald Trump
Like as if Biden's like sending DMs to Trump. God, can you believe what she did today?
wants to be a dictator.
Man, I don't even believe it.
To himself. It is well known
This music is perfect.
that he said of Putin that he can
I do love that
wherever the
PNG.
hell he
It's so
wants,
good.
go into Ukraine Ukraine.
Oh yeah, there it is with the gun.
When Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged
does
love
does
letters
please me
with
greatly.
Vladimir
Look at it.
Putin.
Look at it.
Absolutely well known.
I'm sorry. It makes me laugh like really hard.
Rooting for you to be president again because they're so
Oh, they're kind of getting on
they
that.
can manipulate
All right. Okay. Here we go.
No, it's all right.
flattery
Yeah, the
and favors. And
Dictators
that
want
is
Trump to
why
win because he can be manipulated.
so many military
Oh yeah.
leaders have told me
My God.
you are a disgrace.
Good.
That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Yeah. No. Fucking no. Cut off his mic. Cut his mic.
That's weak or national
I thought he
security
wanted the
by
mics to be
allowing
muted.
Every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down.
Yeah.
Crime weights.
He keeps talking about how I guess all of the illegals that are here that are
They're
just
hitting
crime
that really
waving.
hard. I guess that
Other
they've decided that's going to be
countries
their
think that
major
they're
attack
weak, but
vector.
incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent.
Trying to convince
And I
people
just
that this
ask
is
one
a
question. Why does Biden go in and
an
kill the
illegal
Keystone
immigrant overrun
Pipeline
apocalyptic
and approve
hellhole.
The single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe.
You already talked about that. He just says he's just already said this.
By the way, gets
President
paid a
Trump,
lot of money.
thank you, with a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate
Ah.
at the Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia.
All right.
Oh
then.
yeah, I heard about how apparently what Trump said that they're gonna take all the illegal aliens and give them transgender surgery, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, he
what?
was claiming Kamala wants to provide transgender surgery to illegal aliens that are in.
Because it's gonna trick all the people, and then that way there'll be even trickier illegal aliens doing crimes, so many crimes.
That's all the illegals are doing, just crimes.
Yeah.
Non-stop crimes. And they'll run into whatever restroom they want, and we won't be able to catch them.
Oh my God, what will we do? What will we do with gender-neutral bathrooms? How dare?
The world will stop turning completely. How was your drive home, Steph?
It was fucking awful. It was a terrible drive home. There was a dude on a bicycle. Okay, like not even stop signs. Like this is a street that doesn't have a stop sign for the main part, but Cross Street has a stop sign, so for them to go when it's safe. He just goes into the middle of like into my lane and like drove around, like weaved around two cars because he didn't want to stop.
Wow.
At the stop sign. And I was just like, are you fucking for real? Okay, bro. I told Lawrence yesterday there was also a man who was standing in the lane. There was like a 4-lane road, and I was in the left lane, and this dude was just standing in the right lane. He had his back to oncoming traffic, and I was kind of going slow because I'm like, what the fuck is this dude doing? And I keep going, and then he turns and like he was gonna walk in front of my car, and I thought, I'm gonna fucking hit this dude. And then he stopped, and then he has his hands in the air like, what the fuck? And I'm like, you are in the middle of the street. You're not at a light. You're not in a crosswalk. You were just standing in a lane next to the line, and you almost walked in front of my car. So go ahead, wave your hands in the air like you just don't care. I would have hit you if I had not been paying attention. I would have hit him. So yeah, so I'm real tired, real tired of people in Hollywood traffic nonsense.
Yeah, some people don't seem to treat the road like a place where death comes quickly and easily. Just kind of wandering around, figuring that people will get out of their way or not just kill them immediately.
Well, I used to get really nervous when I'd go to CDPR and I would be like, I drive to Venice because people in Venice do not. They just walk out into the street because I got to go to that coffee shop that's right there. And it's like they're in a haze. Like they just walk and you're like, what the fuck? And you've got to slam on your brake. There's been multiple people that have been killed because they get hit by cars because they're just like, oh, I'm just walking in the street. And you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I feel like, there was some important lesson that didn't really land about the importance of looking both ways before you enter the street. I remember being a kid and having that, hey, how's Bono doing?
Well, you know what? There used to be signs in Hollywood, like around Hollywood proper, along like the like Hollywood Walk of Fame and shit, where they would tell people if they were going to hail a cab to not do it in the street because they will get hit by like actual street signs telling people, by the way, if you stand in the street, you could get hit by a car. So please don't try to hail cabs like that. I'm just like, really? We have to tell people.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel like you have to convince people of their own mortality and to spare an ounce of survival instinct sometimes. It's just a big mess. It's just a big mess. Just please don't get hit by a car in the first place. One of these days we'll have self-driving cars. I don't know if that'll make it better or worse. If like there's AI cars that have to stop and people get used to that, won't they just they'll just put themselves everywhere, right? They don't care.
It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's a little wild.
I'm waiting for like we need self-driving truck pirates that are like out on the highway commandeering self-driving trucks and stealing stuff. It's like Fast and Furious, but instead of DVDs, it'll be PS5 Pros, stacks of them.
Did you see my text that I sent you?
Maybe. Oh,
it's too late. They're back.
Here again, David Muir and Lindsay.
Which one?
Davis.
Oh, maybe I didn't send you the picture.
Oh.
Shit. Well, I'll send it. I'll show you after this.
We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their
dear.
sovereignty.
This is
and
gonna get weird.
democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war
for beer.
in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that?
Oh, Lord.
I know how I'm going to solve all of our country's problems.
Ukraine.
Me winning the lottery.
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the.
He doesn't say he'll
millions,
give
the
Ukraine away,
millions.
but
It's
he's
so
basically
much
saying
worse
it.
than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look,
Everything's
we're
fake to
in
this
for
guy.
250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe.
I don't like how we always see the bottom of his teeth when he talks.
Yeah, it talks like this.
They're in for 150
His lower
billion
jaw is very
dollars less
heavy.
Because
It-
Biden and you
it's
don't have the
disturbing.
guts to ask Europe like I did.
Like he has too many teeth.
They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions.
Like one of those COD models that had too many teeth.
Good cod teeth.
Protect you anymore, so that's maybe one of
Yeah,
the
his teeth are
reasons they
kinda
don't like
bleached
me
up.
As much as they like weak people.
Looking pretty good
But
for 80-year-old teeth.
You take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into
Billion.
100 to 150.
He's talking
They should be
money.
forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have
I
Part of the
thought they
deal.
were scared of him. Didn't he say like
They respect
10 minutes ago they were scared of
They
him?
respect
How
him.
would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become
always says
president.
settled.
If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other.
Yeah, I almost don't like when the debaters still refer to him as president because I like that she makes sure to always refer to him as former president. You gotta keep reminding people, no, no, bad.
I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself,
Oh my
David.
God.
We're playing with World War III, and we have a president.
I see that they.
He's essentially making the
Where is
case
our
that
president? We don't even
Ukraine
know
has
if
to
he's the
cede
president.
territory.
Just to clarify,
Or even
They call him out of a
autonomy.
campaign like a dog.
He's-
We don't
he
even
can't
know.
say it, but he's
Is he our
saying it.
President? But we have a president,
Mr. President.
that doesn't know he's
Mr.
alive.
President, shut up. Mr. Former President, look with his little red,
they were
white, and
supposed to cut
blue
the mics.
outfit.
It's in the U.S.
Yeah.
best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it
He won't
done.
say it.
Yeah.
Negotiated
But he's
deal.
saying it.
Because we have to stop all of these human
Because he loves
lives
Putin.
from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Yeah.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change
Ukraine should be
territorial
such a slam
boundaries,
dunk.
to defy
It's
one
so
of the
in
most
line with
important
American
international
protectionism.
rules and norms, which is the importance
I remember the name of
sovereignty and
the idea
territorial
that we have to
integrity.
protect everybody.
When I met with President
McKinley?
Zelensky, I shared with him American
that doctrine?
intelligence about how he could defend himself.
There it is.
Days later, I went to NATO's eastern
Something a
flank,
little
to Poland
upbeat.
and Romania. And
Well, there was a
and
name
others did. We
specifically
brought
for
50
like North
countries
America.
together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because
righteous
of our
defense.
support, because of the air defense, the
I think it
ammunition,
was,
the artillery, the javelins,
It was in like the 17 or 8. No, it was in like the 1800s, I think. And it was used as a way to basically patrol the waters
Putin would be
and
sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what
lock
that
down
would
trade.
mean, because Putin's agenda
Monroe
is not
Doctrine.
just
I think that
about
was it.
Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the
Oh,
world
yeah.
has ever known, which is
poses
NATO.
for European
And what we
colonialism
have
in the
done
Western Hemisphere.
to
Yeah, that's the
preserve
one.
the ability of Zelensky
Man,
and
that's like
Ukrainians to fight for their
cobwebs in my brain.
Otherwise,
I'm like, wow, I remember that.
with his eyes on the rest
Ooh.
of Europe, starting with
It was in there somewhere.
But after like so much American intervention that didn't go anywhere, like Vietnam, Ukraine seems like a really divine
for the
fight.
sake of favor.
Americans love that shit.
Friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Nice.
Ukraine tonight.
Yeah.
He's ready for action.
I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually...
No, a lot of us think about that a lot.
That threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak.
Is he now saying that it's her? She did it?
Never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin. And she
Send
did.
her in.
And the war started 3
Wow.
days later.
Wow.
And that's
Kamala,
the
we need the
talent
magic
we
back.
have with her. She's
Strap
worse
up,
than
we're
us.
sending you
In my
in.
opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our
Nice.
country. She goes down as the
Got the
worst
stripes on the
vice
face.
president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something.
Kamala
You said you
halo
went to
jumping.
negotiate with Vladimir Putin.
What?
Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is, it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are
I'm sorry.
dependent
Trump
on our ability
can only mostly just pick up cheeseburgers. Oh, he also talked about how he took a bullet to the head, and I was like, "Excuse me, I'm sorry."
And that is very
Lord,
much what's
Lord,
at
help
stake
me.
here. The President
And
of
God
the
healed
United
him
States,
miraculously.
Commander-in-Chief, and
Laid
the
his hands upon that
has a
ear.
right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Scary to see an American president
shut up.
supporting the leader of another country we're basically at war with. Yeah, I agree.
At the time to pay up. He said, I've
Yeah,
never
block
seen the
music.
head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations.
There's a lot of things about
NATO.
Trump that are fundamentally un-American, which is ironic given that he runs on like mega patriotism, but
we're not going to protect you.
democracy ought to be the core of it, right?
He said it was one of the most
Not when it doesn't work exactly in
Yeah.
his favor.
Not when you don't win.
I mean, the fact that he called out like the Supreme Court for supporting him, and you were the Supreme Court for, and you were like, you fucking built that
No.
court, you piece of shit.
The one you appointed?
Yeah. Wow, what a shock. They ruled in your favor?
Well, he had 3 seats, and then there was the one that was held open at the end of the Obama administration too. So they did. Republicans did sweep the
said
court.
They would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying.
It's aggravating that it was allowed to happen.
Yeah, it really shouldn't have.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world the first time this century.
That's nice.
But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals.
Yeah, some would
you
argue
can
that Trump
imagine.
is very
He calls himself
American.
A deal maker. Even his national security
He's
advisors
the
say
reality,
it
not the
was a
dream.
weak,
Yeah.
terrible
Yeah, the like, let me cut every corner. You'll have more time to play. That's the American way.
Yeah.
and call the
The
Taliban.
used car lot owner.
The
That's
negotiation
that's the
involved
American
Taliban
dream.
getting
Ugh, God, look at him from the side.
Taliban troops released, and get this, no, get this. And the president at the time
Keep thinking about
invited the
used
Taliban
cars.
to Camp David.
They don't make American
A
films like that
place
anymore.
Of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as
Yeah.
president,
See?
invited
Oh, we got a
Gotta-
little.
gotta
Is
do
that
it.
a drip?
to Camp David because he does
Aw,
not again
I saw it glisten.
appreciate the role and
I think it might have just been something
responsibility
else.
of the President of the United States to be Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect.
They trained her to make sure that she would say former president. The more times that you say that, the more that it gets into people's brains, and that they think, just like turning a page, moving forward.
Sure.
It's all about trying to, we're not going to do the same things. He will do the same things and make it worse.
with the Taliban. Because the
Yeah,
Taliban
she's
was
hitting her
doing
messages
killing.
and
That's the
connecting them to her
fighting force
points
within
pretty well.
Afghanistan. They don't
I just
bother
hope those
doing
are the
that because
messages
they
that
deal
actually
with the wrong
land with
people all
people.
the time.
It feels like politics
I got
is just pro
involved.
wrestling now.
And Abdul is the head. of
Can
the
she
Taliban.
give him the chair then?
I hope so.
Don't do it
Ah,
anymore.
God, with
You
the
do it
folded
anymore,
chair.
You're gonna have problems. And he said, "Why do you send me a picture of my house?" I said, "You're gonna have to figure that out."
Did you hear about all the
For
eating of the
18
pets?
months, we had
I have heard about the eating of the pets.
negotiated by Pompeo. It was a very
I swear to God, it's like,
It was good.
he's like taking even things that people talked about in like the 80s, right? And just revamping them. And now, like, yeah, I saw like AI images of like Trump with like ducks and like kittens. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? What is happening?
They blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by
Chavez.
us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Where's that wall, Trump?
These people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history
Didn't
of our
the
country.
withdrawal start
And by
under the
way,
Trump
that's
administration?
why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
What?
Trump, thank you.
It doesn't matter if it happened. It matters if you can pin it on somebody else.
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
Oh, that's a minefield.
I don't care what she is. I don't care.
He was ready for that, though.
I couldn't care less.
He's selling it.
Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I don't
asking-
know. I don't know. I mean, all I could
What?
say is that she was not black, that she put out, and
What?
I'll say that. And then
Pardon me?
that she was-
Pardon me?
And that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
Good. Yeah, let's bring that shit
Yeah.
back up. Yeah.
Who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino
Artificial
boys
Jesus, thanks
who
for the
were innocent
sub.
with Central Park
All right.
5.
Seeing Peter Parker snap Aunt
Took
May's
out
neck
a full-page ad
always distracts me.
calling for their execution. This is the
Thank
same
you.
individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American
I was surprised that he didn't say, or that he just didn't go, I don't see color.
than this.
Basically did,
One
right?
I mean,
who understands as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend.
I like how
We see
the
in
most
each other
direct
a
replies he's
neighbor.
had to any
We
confrontation
don't
is, "It was a
want
prank, bro,"
leader who
or
is
"I don't know."
constantly
yeah,
I don't care.
I said that sarcastically. I do like that at least
tell me.
the moderator was like, I listened to the videos. It does not sound like you were being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Invest in the aspirations
But
and the
the
ambitions and
moderators are very
aspirations
clinical, and
Yeah.
I feel like that
knowing that
doesn't move
regardless
people
of
anymore.
people's color or the
But
language
it's
their
civilized, so
grandmothers
that's
speak,
something.
We all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president.
Like you can see
who
the relief
invests
of
in
his shoulder
those,
pads.
Not in hate and division.
He's trying to give him. Yeah, he's trying to look tough.
Third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our
Well,
country,
J6 was a
and
different
they
thing.
come up with things like what she just
Oh, it's
said.
body armor.
Going back many, many years, when a lot of people,
Got his
including Mayor
epaulets.
Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if
That
they
was
pled
compelled,
guilty,
though.
they
That was the whole thing, right?
badly
They were-
hurt
they were
person,
innocent?
killed the person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is
Well, there's a whole
person
thing about how their
that has to stretch back
confession was
years, 40,
compelled. They were like
50
kept in a
years
room
ago.
for 24 hours without
There's
food and
nothing
water
now. I
and
built
shit.
one of the greatest economies in the
And
history
it was just like
of the
teenagers
world.
that they
And
picked
I'm
up and
gonna
kind
build
of put it
again.
on them
It's gonna be
and
bigger,
basically
better,
tortured them until
stronger.
they said that they did
But
it.
they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman. She is Biden.
Again, there's the boner for Biden.
Because he knows he can win against
A
Biden.
horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Time's up.
Briefly. Clearly,
Finally,
I'm
she
not
gets the
Joe
mic.
Biden,
Okay, good.
and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense
Yeah,
of
a lot of the
optimism
aspirational stuff, which again
about
is like
what we can
Obama's
do
campaign.
Instead of always disparaging
Si se puede.
the
Yeah, he's getting
American
glistening.
people.
You got that upper lip
I
sheen a little bit.
believe in what
Oh yeah, just a tiny bit.
strengthen our
He didn't. He looks like he didn't really do a lot of coke before he came out. He doesn't seem that jazzed, that up.
prepare the plans.
For as
I have
rambling
a
as he can
plan
be, it's still kind of
to
impressive
give
that an 80-year-old
startup
can
businesses
get up there and
$50,000
swing it like he
tax
does.
deduction.
Ah,
Well, because he has like,
their ambitions.
I don't know.
He's got good batteries. That's what he said.
I have a plan.
He's got good internal power.
That's because he fueled up with McDonald's before he started this. He's ready. He's pumped for the next like couple hours, and then he's gonna crash hard. He's gonna have like a sugar crash.
Maybe. It depends what the news cycle is after this. If he's gonna like Citizen Kane around one of his
Well, they'll put him in like a wheelchair, and then he could just yell on the phone to like Fox News because he'll call them as they have him on speed dial.
Believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
To defund the
No.
plan.
No,
Why do they
don't
keep
give
doing
it to
that?
him. Don't give it to him.
Confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump.
Oh my God.
Allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because-
Trump,
no, the-
President
Bury your
Trump.
guns now, folks. You heard it
I'm
here.
sorry.
Twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
gonna
need to
move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep.
Yeah, they said they were
Obamacare,
gonna
quote,
mute mics, but
unless
they
we can do
just don't.
something
I
much
don't know.
better. Last
It's
month, you
entertainment.
said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it.
Music
and we're gonna
rules.
do it.
He's working on it.
I inherited Obamacare because
He
Democrats
he was a president.
vote for it.
He had people that they could have created something, right?
Yeah, he had 4 years, and apparently he had immunity from any criminal wrongdoing, so he could have just done it.
He could have done a lot of things, but now he's like, we're working on a plan.
Yeah.
Now
Well, that was always his healthcare thing. He always had a plan that was going to knock your socks off. And we're almost ready to announce it. 6 weeks, we'll have a plan that'll solve all the problems. He said that the whole time,
I
actually.
decided
and then I had to take a nap.
Yeah.
Plan's not ready.
a lot of good people in
The
this
plan is Doritos
administration.
Locos
Read
Tacos.
about the bad ones. We had some real bad
It's selling gold shoes. It's selling NFTs.
get rid of. But let me just explain. I had a choice.
Yeah, you had a lot of
Do I
felons in your
save it
cabinet, dog.
and Make it as good as it can be, or do I let it?
Oh yeah, he talked about how people can like sell books based. Nobody can sell books working with these people. They can sell
Oh, yeah.
books working with me. And I was like, yeah, because you're an idiot. And everybody's like, God, what a piece of shit.
We can come up with
What a terrible. Like he's not a politician. He's not smart. He's really kind of an idiot. He's self-serving.
Then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have
So many years and doesn't have a plan.
now. But if we come up with
Oh,
something,
he
If
knew
you
that was not the
hire
right thing to
me,
say.
then I'll give you a plan.
Yeah.
and there are concepts.
I'm not doing the job until I get the contract. Get me.
You had the job and you didn't do anything.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported.
Again, every time that the moderators press him a little bit, it's comedic gold, so they need to do that a lot more often.
2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But
Oh, Silent, that's how
what
we-
need
that's
to
how you
do
have
is
to do it.
maintain And grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just
And
need
by
to
the way, I'm
clarify
proud of
the
chat.
previous point that
There might be alternative views in chat,
I've made
but
very
until they
clear
get
my position on
confrontational,
fracking.
you just let them be.
And then this business about taking
Ain't hurting
everyone's
nobody.
guns away. Tim Walz and I are
People
both
are allowed to
guns.
think
We're
and
not
write
taking
and chat whatever they
anybody's
want.
guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was
Well, I don't know if I'd call it that,
60
Captain.
times he tried to get rid of the Affordable
It's just
Care
interesting
Act.
how a lot of the
60
most charged
times. I was a
opinions
senator
are also
at the
first-time
time.
chatters tonight.
When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late
Oh, thank you,
great
artificial
John
Jesus.
McCain, who you have disparaged as
That's
being
not a troll.
you don't like him. You said.
God, his stupid face. Look at his stupid face every time.
Hero. The late great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, "No, you don't. No, you don't.
Oh, yeah.
No, you don't get rid of the Affordable
That's pretty
Care Act.
good.
You have no
Bringing up
plan."
John McCain,
And what the Affordable Care
rustling
Act
his
has done
bones
is
to save the
eliminate
ACA. That's,
ability
I mean, that
for
was a
insurance
pretty
companies
peak
to
American
deny
moment.
people with pre-existing
Yeah.
conditions.
I thought.
I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny?
Yeah.
If
Pre-existing
a child had
conditions? Are you
asthma,
fucking kidding me?
Yep.
was a breast cancer survivor,
That stuff
if
was
a
gnarly. Like even the
grandparent
fact that
had
that window was
died.
even allowed.
And thankfully,
Ugh.
as I've
What's
been
now-
vice
what we
president
have
and
now
we,
is really
over the
bad.
last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act. We have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35
Yeah.
a month. Since I've been vice president,
McCain
we
was-
have capped the cost of
I could
prescription medication
respect
for
him,
seniors at
which is,
$2,000
you
a
know,
year. And when I am
certainly the
president,
composure of
we will do
conservative
that for all
candidates has gone
people,
downhill since.
understanding that the value I bring to this.
Yeah, I remember
is
even in the
that
Obama
access
election,
to
there were some
healthcare
Fox News addled
should be a
people in a
right
debate
and
that
not
started
just a
implying that
privilege of those who
Obama
can
was a
afford it.
terrorist
And
plant.
the plan has
And McCain
to
shut
be
that shit down, to
strengthen
his
the
immense
Affordable
credit.
Care Act, not get rid of it.
Unfortunately, it didn't take much longer until we got
Where Donald Trump
candidates that
stands
would
on that.
willingly
I wanna
play
move to
into
an
it.
issue that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of
They ate the
mistake.
dogs.
Number
No,
one,
don't.
John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him.
kinda.
It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We
Yes.
can do much better than
I was thinking about
Obamacare,
Super
much
Metroid
less
today.
money. But she won't
He
improve
did. It was a party line thing,
insurance
but
for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to.
Don't thank
that's
him. It's
important for a
okay.
number of Americans, in particular younger voters.
You
and
want a
that's
chair,
climate
Steph? Should
change.
we-
President
Oh, I mean,
Trump
I've been
today
sitting most of the day, so
say
it's
that we
fine.
have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone
God.
who lives in a state who is
I know.
The last 4 days, I couldn't even stream. We're popping breakers left and right on this place.
Being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We
Okay.
know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4
Yeah.
years,
I agree with
we
that.
have
Thank you.
invested
Finally got
$1
somebody
trillion
that went way
in a
over the
clean
line.
energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested
It's like-
in clean energy to the
Like
point
playing
that
a fucking, what is it, the Weasel game?
Yeah.
Trump said-
Yeah.
Papa Weasel. When somebody comes,
It hasn't been that bad.
And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a
Yeah, the
clean
water
energy
wars.
economy
Oh,
includes
yeah.
investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing.
Luckily,
what
we're in
we
a
can
country
do
that has a
around American
fleet of
manufacturing
murderous
and
drones
opening up
so that
auto-
we'll get all the water.
Force 9.
Yeah.
Vice President Harris,
Strap a
thank you.
Glock to a Drone Force 9 and
Let me
send him
just
in.
tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these
China.
massive plants.
China.
There it
They're
is.
going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing.
what they
in
usually
this
do is just
country
offer
is
incentives for
horrible.
American
We have
production
nothing
rather than
because
tariff
they
foreign
refuse-
production.
You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do
Hell
it.
yeah, he's combat
Between
theory.
him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5
I don't think
million
Ukraine's a huge
from
trade
the mayor
partner.
of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our
Oi.
candidates. in this
God.
ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Still can't get over the dogs. Cause Cruz like posted a meme about foreigners eating dogs a few days ago. That's the thing, is like it's becoming more and more obvious that this shit is coordinated. They for a couple of weeks now, they've tried to find some kind of thing to hook, like some attack that sticks. And they're not really seizing it up, but I guess pinning it all on immigrants and saying that they eat dogs is what the Conservative Party of the United States of America has decided to go with.
It's insulting. If I were conservative, I would be insulted.
Yeah.
I would be like, what? What is this? What is actually happening?
Yeah. And Kamala was told to rise above the attacks and focus on the issues. Sorta. I mean, she slings some appropriate shade, I think. But she also is trying to firmly establish herself as above all that shit. I don't know. That's what Hillary tried to do, and it didn't work at all. It just looked like she couldn't play that game. So I think Kamala's doing a pretty good job of slinging respectful shade, but she's not, going, you eat dogs or whatever. So I think that people want to see a little bit of that feistiness as opposed to, Hillary's kind of stoic nature.
I guess the thing is for that, a lot of people watch the debate, but a lot of it is, quite frankly, online. Like, the campaign is really good at least targeting particular age groups with memes, everything else, like trying to get them much more interested that this is what is happening. And a lot of that is, I feel like that's where it's happening. It's not necessarily here. Maybe they feel like the quote unquote adults are watching the debate and not necessarily the younger crowd.
Well, I mean, the younger crowd's probably harvesting it for content like I am. Maybe. I don't know. Somebody did redeem a meditation with Marcus Aurelius. What a great time, Steph. We can do this together. Hell yeah, Final Fantasy VI music too. It's all coming together. All right, what's old Marcus got to say, speaking of stoicism? Verse 8. In the mind of one who is chastened and purified, thou wilt find no corrupt matter, nor impurity, nor any sore skinned over. Nor is his life incomplete when fate overtakes him, as one may say of an actor who leaves the stage before ending and finishing the play. Besides, there is in him nothing servile, nor affected, nor too closely bound to other things, nor yet detached from other things. Nothing worthy of blame, nothing which seeks a hiding place. So the pure stoic man has no trauma that controls them.
I don't think that that's possible.
Yeah, so
I think that there's trauma no matter what. Everybody has some sort of baggage that they take with them, that they deal with. But honestly, that's how you actually grow as a human. Humans. So I guess he's talking about a baby. But babies even have trauma. Birth is kind of a trauma. Like not being able to communicate and using screaming is a trauma. Like, I don't know that. What is the definition of somebody who wouldn't have that?
A perfectly rational human who is always at peace with themselves.
A robot?
Maybe.
So something not human?
Well, I mean, stoicism almost aspires to roboticness in some ways, I think. The Terminator, sure, yeah. Purity of purpose.
Yeah, I have one job. My job is to come here and kill. I don't give a shit about anything else.
Anyone who's achieved divine enlightenment. The thing, yeah, I like that you said you're not sure that's possible, because that's what I kind of get that in a lot of the Stoic meditations from Uncle Mark. Essentially, he describes this emotional ideal that I think is only possible for people who have not been fucked with severely. And I actually kind of need to read up about the man's life now. But if you've ever been the victim of circumstance, and you've had to deal with understanding yourself and understanding the trauma that can incur, and even the behavior patterns that might result. Like, part of life is accepting those things, not seeking an ideal where they don't exist.
Here again, David Muir
Anyway,
and Lindsay Davis.
this music is perfect.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris.
Yeah, somebody I'm sure
Dartboard, thanks for gifting 3 subs. To
I'm sure
Kinetic
somebody
Cosmo, Skin,
dotted his
Schizo,
little
and
upper
nice
lip.
work,
One that is
Butterfingers.
focused on the future,
Did
and
he
the
get
other
dabbed,
that is
you think?
focused on the
Yeah, I think he got dabbed.
and an attempt
Oh.
to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I
ain't
do
going back.
believe
Blah,
that
blah.
the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families.
I'm a small
in
business.
What we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost
The weapon,
of
thank you for
living.
the sub.
I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world.
Oh, he
and
was
ensuring
tortured
that
all
we
his
have
life
the
and used
respect
stoicism as a
that we
mental
so
way to
rightly
separate himself
deserve,
from it.
including respecting our military.
And that almost feels like
We have the most lethal
I'll have to
kind
read
of
it.
kind of shitty to tell other people that when you're like, nah, man, it's okay. Like
freedoms, including
maybe you had a little PTSD.
Yeah.
You didn't know what that was, but
have her government tell
And who
her what
knows
to
if he
do.
actually lived those
I'll tell you,
ideals every
I
day.
started my
I'd be
career
curious.
as a
I'd be curious to
prosecutor. I
see
was a DA,
any
would-
recorded
Attorney General, the United States
account of
Senator,
people who
and now
knew
Vice
him
President.
and was
I've
like,
only
yes,
had
he
one
actually
time.
was like that.
oh god, I don't.
And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor,
Maybe he wrote that all as a joke.
a victim
It was all a lol troll.
The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay?
Ah,
And that's the kind of president we need, right?
that was a good line right there.
Someone
Yeah.
who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
Woo! That is true.
For all Americans.
I was like, the only thing that I feel like that he has is ambition for himself, not for a country, not for anyone else.
Right now, in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for
Says the
3.5
candidate
years. They've had
that was president 4
3.5
years ago.
to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we
Oh, they did
talked
do
about.
that.
Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't
Okay, careful with the
sacrifice
Germany
our
ref there,
country
pal.
for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation.
Why didn't you do it?
We're a nation that
Yeah, that seems like a weird take to go down, but
all over the world they're left. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at
No.
all over the world. They don't understand.
No,
what happens
bullshit.
to us as a nation. We're not a leader.
I don't believe that for a second.
We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end
Russia.
the Third World War, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan.
Oh.
What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into
Again,
our
the
country.
immigrant
Many
thing,
of them
yeah.
are criminals, and they're destroying our country.
Yeah, I'm a little terrified that he keeps bringing up nuclear war. Like, I don't want this man to be near the button.
Well, he was for 4 years.
Thank you.
I know.
To his
and it was
credit, he didn't
terrifying.
start a war, but I think that's because people got what they wanted out of him without a war.
So his entire closing argument is just that they are bad.
I mean, he
He's
had
got
his
some
talking
vision. But what about what is happening here? What about anything? I guess what the oh,
Vice President
he just he left his little papers. He wouldn't even take his papers. He just leaves trash everywhere. Anyway,
The only thing I can see, like, my going to a coffee shop and reading the newspaper habit, trying to channel myself as an undecided voter, which is pointless because I'm not. But he didn't really do a whole lot of talking about that. I mean, he talked about like foreign military stuff, healthcare a little bit. Mostly he just hammered the immigrant thing. And I guess if I, as an undecided voter, want to pin all my woes on that, then it might play out. But didn't seem like a whole lot of talk about how to help the common man. Whereas Kamala at least was more like progress and building and future stuff.
I don't know if people are looking for hope or they're just looking for shit talk. I mean, because she seemed like it truly was more focused on hope, future, looking ahead, not going back. I don't know. He just kept repeating the same things, bringing up old stuff. I haven't looked at the Trump website to actually see if he has put up anything, although I doubt that he has any policy. I mean, he fucking won before and he had zero policy information about what he actually intends on doing other than I got vision. He's just such a grifter. I don't get it. He's just such a snake oil man. And it's really
the
frustrating.
Game. It's not what is, it's what you can convince people of. Apparently he's good at convincing people of things. So yeah, I really hope the suggestion of rounding up immigrants and booting them from the country and putting them in camps and shit is not something people choose to vote for.
Yeah, he also didn't answer that question when they were like, are you intending on, like, what? Cops going door to door to go get immigrants? And he just starts going about, like, people come in this country, we just have crime. And it was like, well, no, they asked a question about what you would actually do.
Well, because it's a scapegoat. Like, they just want to get back in office. The rest will sort itself out. Well, I guess we'll see. Yeah, it's a good time for a gamer stretch. And also to clear our minds from this business for a little bit. So.
You're listening to Game Music Radio, brought to you by rpgamers.net.
So good. Oh, we got to listen to Halo, though. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah, smoke weed every day. That's the only thing I can say that's always true. I'm going to be back with more gaming soon. So, see you all in a bit. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be right back. Oh, this music's so good, though. I'm going to leave it on. I think it'll still play over MediaTek. Let's see.